Good morning. I'd like to call this January board meeting to order, please. And I would invite you all to stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have to make this observation. What a difference a day makes. On Monday, we had residents that couldn't get in this theater. It was a standing room only crowd. So I'm very pleased to see each of you that's come out today for our board meeting. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of our January 10th organizational board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 10th organizational board meeting.
I second that motion.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the 10 January organizational board meeting, and I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next on our agenda, Rick, first slide, please. Okay. Next is, this will be a staple of our monthly board meeting. We'll always start with a very quick update on the things that we're working on related to our strategic plan. The first thing that's in front of you is our mission statement. I'll let you have a minute to read it if you haven't already. Next slide. This is our vision statement. Next slide, please. And so today, myself and Walter will be the two speakers related to the strategic plan. I'm the champion for goal number 1, and Walter is the champion for goal number 4. I'll let you read the definition of that goal. Next slide, Rick. Next slide, Rick. So the three things that I'm going to brief on are the highlights there. The status of our board manual, defining and clarifying expectations for our committees, and ensuring the synchronization amongst our staff and our committees. Next slide. The board manual is complete. It's going to be posted online so you can access it. It was the source document that covered both the board orientation meeting on 10 January and the governance synchronization conference on 23 January. So we're off to a fast start. Number 4 there, the committee roles. We have a committee policy task force that was established back in November of 23 by my predecessor. That committee is looking at all the charters and the structure for how those charters should be put together, what the contents should consist of. What we're looking at is how are we going to be uniform across defining the roles and responsibilities of each of our committees. The report from that task force is due back to the board at our June board meeting. The last thing that I will talk about is ensuring that the strategic plan synchronization occurs. And I can report back to you that the governance synchronization conference was conducted, and from all of my discussions with staff members and the committees, we accomplished our task. Next slide. Walter.
All right, thank you, Matt. I'm the champion for goal number 4 out of the strategic plan, And this all has to do, as you can read up there, about attracting and maintaining good staff so that we can deliver the high quality service to you as residents. Okay, next slide. Under this goal, you can see there are several objectives, 1 through 10. Today I'm going to update you on objective 4 and number 8. So next slide, please. All right, so objective 4, ensure wages and benefits are reviewed annually at a minimum to be competitive. So our HR office has already reached out, and what we usually do is we reach out to the other HOAs that are similar to us, and our HR offices work together, and we collect data to compare how our wages with similar work relate to each other. And then we also go and compare to Arizona wages. And so each year we review this and we bring that back to the HR office and look at how we're doing, if we're offering the proper wages to be competitive, or just to make sure that we're in line with what's going on outside of the HOA. So this has already started. We've already started collecting information. Objective number 8, promote career development and growth. Well, on Thursday, the 25th, we had Ray, who's the assistant general manager. He gave a presentation to all of our directors talking about career development. And, in our organization, there's not a lot of opportunity to move up in our organization, but we're looking and discussing this with our directors to try to build this in. And again, a lot of these objectives are not just a one thing you're done, it's a continuous process throughout the year. So we're going to continue throughout the year to look at career development with the staff. And that's all I have to report, Matt.
You don't have to put your mic down, because now I invite you to give our general manager's report.
All right, great. So I've got some items to run through here just to kind of give you an idea of what the staff is doing, what they're working on here in the last month and going forward. So accounting. So in the accounting area, of course, we're working on the year-end closeout for financials. I don't think there's any slides for this. This is just me reading down my list here. So of course, accounting's finishing up the 2023 year, getting ready for the audit coming. At the same time, they're closing out the January numbers, which is the financial statement there. A little bit here in this presentation or in this meeting today, you're going to see numbers for
December. Terry's going to update you on the December numbers. And one of the things that now that we got the new software, we are headed towards being able to get financial statements out between 6 to 10 days at the beginning of the month. We had struggles with that with TEI. Now we're back to North Star, so we're confident that we can get the financial statements out a little quicker for you to review. The administration office, of course, they're always working hard. They were hand in hand with the board to put on the new homeowners orientation, and that was quite successful. They had about 40 new homeowners in attendance, so that went very well. Thank you to the administration office for helping put that together. A little advertisement for the ALC committee. If you don't know, we actually have a hired person on staff that helps with the administration of the ALC committee paperwork. And she is reminding all of you that the ALC has open positions if you want to volunteer and be part of the ALC. They would appreciate your help. We also have, again, just want to remind you from the admin staff that there are forms online related to landscape requests. These you can find online. They've put a lot of forms online now. So if you're looking to put in a complaint, recommendation, a form, you need to do something with the admin office. Charlie here has put a lot of that stuff online electronically for your convenience. Okay, common area. Again, common area, we're in the first year of executing the new process with common area, and things are going well. They're working up in Unit 45 now along Peregrine Place and working towards a Wilderness Rock. So if you're up there in the preserve, you may see the heavy equipment moving behind your house there. Level 2, which is drainage. If you live on Desert Bluff, on the east side of Desert Bluff, you probably noticed they were back behind your house trying to clean out a lot of the silt out of the drainage, and also addressing some of the erosion that's happening on that hill on the east side of Desert Bluff. Level 3, which is amongst the units where we have kind of the gravel and kind of a nicer landscape just off the roads, that's level 3 in the units. They're working there and replacing plants. Last I heard, they were down here in 46, 48. I don't have an update right now on exactly where they're at in level 3, but things are moving there also. So for the common area, since I've been here, this is the most active that I've seen them. And it's a reflection of the board helping us and giving us the direction and also the funding to attack this. So a lot of good things are happening in common area. Fitness center is going gangbusters. If you're trying to get into some of the classes, you probably have a wait list. Not good for you, but that does show that the programs are well liked. New classes coming here in February. Zumba Gold on Monday at 10:30 and Saturdays at 9:15. And for all the men here, you got your broga coming back. So, all right, men, if you don't want to be body shamed and you don't want people looking at you, the guys can all get together, the broga. And that's going to be in the Rincon room on Tuesday at 10:30. Let's see, what else? Jeanette is also helping Matt at the golf course with a golf clinic. So that's February 15th, 11 a.m., 30 minutes in the Rincon room from instruction, I believe, from Jeanette. And then you go out to the driving range. And I believe Jeanette guarantees, an extra 100 yards on your... All right, not really, but she will help you out. Okay, food and beverage. If you're looking at going up to the Valentine's up at the preserve, I think you're out of luck. That one's already sold out. However, you still have an opportunity to sign up down at the Mountain View Bar and Grill. Their Valentine's in the ballroom, and they're already pressing 200, which is actually, I think, more than we had for the New Year's event. So they also rolled out a new menu for the Mountain View Bar and Grill, which it's been out for a little bit, and we're getting good reviews on that. And they're also working on a new menu for the Brook. And we've listened to a lot of inputs from the residents, so I think you'll be pleased when they roll out the new menu for the Brook also. I just got to put a plug in here. Food and beverage has taken a beating the last 6 months. I mean, every time I got up here, I was hearing, inconsistent food, and, it took a long time. I really think we've kind of turned a corner on that. I'm not going to say we're 100%. I'm not going to say every 100% menu or delivery of food is going to be exact, but I really think we have turned the corner here, and I think it's really worth your effort to come back and, check it out again. And, I believe we're now delivering the quality and on time. So please come back out and try out the food and beverage again. I know there's not a full house, but can you raise your hand if you have a birthday in February? Anybody in here have a February birthday? Okay, looks like maybe 2 of us. So, if you're a resident, you come to the food and beverage on your birthday month, you will get a $5 credit to your meal or whatever you're ordering, with the exception of alcohol. We're not going to donate to your alcoholic habits, but everything else, if it's your birthday month, come out to food and beverage, mention it to the server, and you should get a $5 credit towards your meal during that month. Just one, not every day. Okay, so just want to make that clear. Alrighty, human resources. Again, we talked about goal number 4. Human resources is really involved with that. They also track some of our turnover rates, and they're reporting a turnover rate of our staff of only 2.5 for January, which is really great. I mean, 2.5 is very minimal. And, that's another thing, is tracking this turnover rate to make sure that we're offering a good place for these folks to work. We did have 4 cases of COVID in the last month. So it's still around, and it's still something that as a staff and as residents we have to watch, but it's not as bad as before. Lifestyle. Again, talking about Valentine's, you can get your tickets for $45 per person, and this is down at the Mountain View Bar and Grill, and this is going to have live music from the Midnight Blues, a 3-course dinner, and this starts at 5 p.m. in the Mountain View Ballroom. So get your tickets there. You can go online and see the information there. You can buy tickets online or at the administration office. There's a performance down here which is called Go Now Moody Blues Tribute, and that's on February 7th. So this band was actually scheduled before COVID, and they had to cancel when COVID came around. And apparently they're pretty popular because Liz said that she had to struggle and jump through some hoops to get them back here because their schedule is so booked. But you get to see them February 7th. Tickets are $37 per person. Again, you can get those online or at the administration building. And then to support your local residents, the Winds and Strings are going to perform here at the Desert View. And this is going to be $10 per person, and this is going to be February 24th at 6 p.m. So really support your local residents, support your neighbors. They're going to be down here putting on a concert. Golf maintenance, again, golf maintenance, they continue to work on the punch list on the first 9 of the Mountain View golf course, and that will continue until we open back up. They're starting to plan and prepare for the 2024 Women's Collegiate Tournament, and of course that'll be held at the Preserve this year. And they're also waiting on approval for the 2024 Aerification Overseed Plan, so they've submitted that already. Golf operations. As you all know, it's been kind of wet and cold, so the weather has been challenging, and for the start of the year, we kind of got a break, but it sounds like Thursday we might be getting some more weather. Callaway Fitting Days at Mountain View on February 5th from 10 to 2. Golf and Fitness Workshop continues on February 15th. You can sign up available on 4Ts apparently. New merchandise is arriving in both the Mountain View and the Preserve golf shops. So be looking for some new merchandise there. Again, one of the sections that covers, almost touches every department is our marketing section. And marketing is really working on with each of these sections to try to get feedback forms. So you're going to notice there's a lot more ways to give us feedback, whether it's in the restaurants or whether it's at the fitness center after different events that Liz puts on. If you want to give feedback, be looking for feedback form, electronic feedback forms. Marketing is doing a big effort to get that out there so we can get your feedback. Let's see here. I talked about the birthday gift already, the $5 on your birthday month. And of course, they're working with us on the strategic plan to get in line with all the goals in the strategic plan. Okay, so patrol. One thing that we've not done ever since I've been here 9 years, and patrol pulled this off. Good on you, Dale. Patrol scheduled and had actual fire drills for our staff. If you were in the buildings, you may have been affected by it, but they actually had the sirens go off and the alarms go off, and the staff had to react and follow we have emergency plans. They had to follow the emergency plans, and Dale graded them on how we did. And as far as I know, Dale gave us a thumbs up. We all did well. But this is the first time we actually physically, ran people through the drill. So thank you to Dale for helping us with that. Dale also had his first senior safety seminar. He had that, was earlier this week or last week? Last week. And those are always great information that he provides to the community. It's free, but it's really important information. So again, another pat on the back for you, Dale. Thanks. Dale also has 2 new electric speed signs. So for all you speeders, careful. He's going to put one on Desert Bluff, and I think there's one going on Clubhouse. So we're getting some of those up. They do work. I mean, people notice when it flashes at you. It does remind you that you're going a little fast and you slow down. So it's not the 100% solution, but it does work to some degree. And finally, before you hear from Ray and some stuff on operations, we're starting up the general manager's coffee again. So that's every other month. The first one is going to be 7 February, so a week from today. And that's going to be at 10:30 a.m. and they're usually in the West Ballroom. So I will see you at the coffee. That's all I have, Matt.
Go ahead. Walter, can you guys hear me? Is this? No. Now you can. Okay. Walter, just a real quickie. The merchandise coming into the pro shops. I wanted to mention, if you're not a golfer, you probably haven't been to the Mountain View Pro Shop recently, but I will tell you, the merchandise selection there is incredible. With Troon's help, that merchandise has really expanded, and I want to put a plug in for pickleball. They have a whole section of pickleball equipment, paddles, bags, shirts, all kinds of stuff for pickleball. They will continue to expand into tennis as well to service our community for all of the amenities we have. So if you haven't been up or taken advantage of walk by or whatever, go to Mountain View, and I think you'll be really surprised at the selection of merchandise, the quality of that selection as well. So I put in a little comment for that. The other thing I wanted to say, we've heard recently that dog walking on our golf courses are going quite well. Certainly there's one or two people that tend to go outside the guidelines a bit, but it's really minor. And I want to say thank you to the community for that. There's been a lot of work put into keeping the dog walking and making sure it's within the guidelines, and that's all worked quite well. So I hope everyone that does have a dog and does walk on the golf course appreciates that, because I certainly do, and I think it's a wonderful way to use our amenities outside of the golf environment. So thank you for that. But sorry, Walter, I just want to make a couple quickies.
All right, good morning, everyone. Ray Kuhn, Assistant General Manager here. I'm going to talk about some of the facility services projects. Some of those are going to be carryovers from 2023, and then we have a full slate of projects planned for 2024. I'm going to start off with some common area maintenance accomplishments. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So Walter's touched on this a little bit, but I have some photographs to share with you here. The level 4 and 5 activity, the team is up in unit 42 and 43 presently. And you can see from this photograph that indeed there are some cacti remaining and some trees that are trimmed up. And so that work is progressing up in unit 42 and 43. I want to say that Michael's now been here, our director of common area, about 90 days, a little more than 90 days. And you see that he's busy. We're making good traction in our level 4 and level 5, as well as some of the drainage areas that we have known issues in for a couple of years, actually. So the next slide shows here where we have this drainage area off of Desert Bluff. We have some erosion issues. The photo on the left is the before, and the photo on the right is after. We leased a mini excavator with a custom blade on the front for efficiently getting through these areas. And that piece of equipment actually served us well here. In the photo on the right, the after photo, you can see that concrete drainage area is well cleaned out now. Next slide. In addition, off of Mooncrest, another problem area with erosion, Michael had a third-party contractor come in and install some riprap strategically so that water is allowed to filter into the ground, and instead of running off and dragging a bunch of soot with it into our drainage areas. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so we've kicked off our comprehensive road study. This is done every 3 years. We've contracted with Kimley Horn, who did this for us 3 years ago. So they know our roads. They have the proper technologies to deliver to us a very comprehensive study. And the next slide shows those deliverables. We have a list of each roadway in each unit, and it's evaluated for condition, fair, poor, or excellent. In the bottom 2 slides, you show a pictorial. We show a pictorial here. They highlight the troubled areas with pink, and then yellow is, fair, and pink would be poor. So this is just an example, but so that study is ongoing. Those deliverables are due back to us here early in February, and we'll be evaluating those against what we already know to be problematic areas. Next slide. All right, I mentioned 2023 carryover projects. We have some work to finish up in the Mountain View Pro Shop. We're also going to do a little bit of work to refresh and renew our Preserve Pro Shop with some fixturing and lighting. I've talked about this TPO roof here at Desert View, just above us. We've been working on that for quite some time. It is completely installed. There is a punch list of repairs and minor details that they are working through as we speak, so that will be done pretty imminently. We contracted for HVAC replacements last year in March, and that equipment has yet to be delivered. It's simply not available. So we're waiting on 3 units for replacement there. Again, we have a comprehensive program where we evaluate the condition of all of those units. We have 86 of them on the rooftop. And so we have a plan, a 5-year plan. We're in year 4 of that plan now for complete replacement of all of those units. So there's, less than a dozen remain. And then seal coat. As part of our road maintenance, we do crack seal initially, then seal coat. Last year, we got too late into that season to do the seal coat, so we're actually combining those here in the beginning of 24. There'll be seal coating starting probably in March. Sorry, excuse me, that was crack seal in March. Seal coat will follow that. New projects, again, the HVAC comprehensive program. We have 3 units scheduled for this year, so that leaves with a total of 6 or 7 to be installed throughout the year. Pool equipment, again, in the reserve replacement. We evaluate all of the equipment, replace what needs to be replaced in terms of motors, filters, etc. We're taking on a little project that is kind of near and dear to me. 2 years ago, we got into a situation where chlorine wasn't available. That's our primary source of disinfection of our pools. So, demand drives technology, and so there are lots of people out there looking at new technologies for disinfecting pools. One of those is ozone. And so we're looking at some technologies that might be available to help us offset the need for just chlorine. Here's another example of where we evaluate and then change up where appropriate. The reserve indicated that we should be replacing the preserve pool deck this year. We all felt that the Mountain View pool deck was in worse condition, and so we chose to prioritize the replacement or renewal. I'm not sure that we're going to replace the whole thing yet, but we are going to resurface it as appropriate. So we're working on that. Desert View sport courts are due for resurfacing this year, so that typically means repair of minor cracking and painting. Again, we have a comprehensive wall repair and paint program for all the common area walls. We are focusing on Unit 48 this year. We did some of that work 2 years ago because of need, and so we may spill over into the next year wall repair up in Unit 14, 15, and 17. So they are the next scheduled. We will be looking at a common area maintenance facility feasibility study this year. We've done some work with Troon. They came down and evaluated our not just common area, but golf and common area facilities. And we'll be working on that this year and hopefully putting something in place in the next year or two for our common area team. They literally work out of some sheds, I would call them, in the Mountain View golf maintenance location. So, I mentioned roads. In addition to the study, we have a plan this year for complete mill and pave of units 27 and 29. In addition, we'll do our normal maintenance schedule for crack seal and seal coat. Okay, I'll check that. But we're definitely doing 29. A lot of our roads have, with the weather the last 2 years, lots of precipitation, both in monsoon and winter rains. Our roads are deteriorating perhaps faster than we anticipated. So looking forward to getting the results of our road study back here shortly.
Before you get out, brief everybody on
Okay.
Overlook, what's happened, what we've done, what we're doing.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Yes, so probably some of you, maybe all of you, I don't know, have noted that we have a sinkhole on Overlook Drive. So this basically appeared late last week. Walter and I evaluated the situation. We have elected to barricade it. The sinking is definitely still moving and may require us at some point to take the decision to close a portion of that. We've installed cones and barricades. I've just learned recently that those barricades are not flashing. We believe that it's important to get those flashing lights on those, and Dale's going to be working on that today so that we have good visibility of that area at night. So we've had Eagle Rock excavating out. I think we met with them on Monday. They're building a plan for us as we speak on how to mitigate and what's more, understand what is the cause of this failure. We've seen this in a couple of other places throughout the community and have some concern that the construction is not meeting specification. So we're taking that up with our friends at Robeson. And, the communication to our contractor is that it's really imperative that we don't just go in there and dig it up and fill it back in, because we really need to understand what the root cause of this failure is. We believe that it's compaction over utilities, and so we're addressing that as quickly as we can. Anything else you'd like to know about that, Matt? Okay, so yeah, I mentioned the Peregrine issue. We tried to proactively work with Robeson on that. We have a 5-year warranty on our roads, which is actually quite generous. Typically, it's 1 to 2 years. Our warranty is 5 years. They were in a little bit of disagreement on the fact that we were out of warranty on that road. Our argument is that we believe we have a pretty generic concern here in terms of compaction of those utilities. There are specifications, but as we learned when the county was here, that Robeson really didn't build these roads to a county specification. So there's a lot of gray area here, right? We're working with them, trying to get collaboration, cooperation. We'll see how that goes. We need to get the road repaired now because it is definitely becoming a safety concern. We'll continue to address the issues with Robeson as we go forward, see where that goes. We also contacted the water company as soon as we saw the first indications of the road failing. They came out, they scoped the sewer line, and their feedback to us was that it is not related to the sewer line in terms of a leak or breakage. It sure looks like there's a lot of water coming through that area, but really don't know the source of it yet. So stay tuned on that. We don't believe it's the water company. We don't believe it's the neighbor's pool. We don't know exactly what it is, but that's a pretty significant sinkhole happening there. So be careful as you proceed through that area. All right, upcoming CIF projects. Very important one to us this year is the facilities master plan. So that is going to be in cooperation with McMahon Group, and looking forward to helping to pull that together. In the budget, we approved the Mountain View pool solar heating capability. We have the canopy there, which is over the parking lot. There was a notion of using that for solar power at some point, but we elected to go with the gas golf carts, and so the need isn't as imminent, and it's a perfect location for helping us to heat the Mountain View pools. And so that will be installed fairly soon. We want to get on that as quickly as possible so that we can get all the benefit of this winter. So we've had 2 contractors out. We have 2 bids. We're looking for a third, and then we will make the decision and proceed. Our lighting system here at Desert View. First year I was here, based on input from our energy task force, we chose to replace most of our lighting with LED lighting. Maybe you remember here in the theater in particular, after installing those LED lightings, we had some flickering. That happens with antiquated equipment and technology, so we're looking to update that equipment here at the Desert View Theater. The same type of equipment exists at the Preserve, but what's made it the higher priority here at Desert View is that the bulbs that are in the ceiling right here are such that they're Sylvanias, and they are long neck 823s, which are no longer available. So this is a problem. Independent of the LED lighting issue, we just can't even get the bulbs anymore. So we are taking a broader look, looking at how we can mitigate the whole facility. So those are the CIF projects planned, and that's all I have for you today. Any questions? I guess we'll take the questions in the end. John.
Ray, on the LED lighting and the lighting for here, is that part of the budget?
It is it's approved in the as a CIF project, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Derek, do you financial update, sir?
Good morning. I am one of the 4 people that had COVID, so I'm in the 25%. But I'm over that now. I just have to wear the mask for protocol. So we'll go ahead and get started with the December 23 update as far as the financials go. The next slide, that's not it. Okay, there you go. All right, so for cash and investments, to start, cash and investments end of the year for operating account was $2.8 million. For reserve account, we had $5.5 million, and CIF had $1.3 million for a total of $9.8 million. This will pick up in January as the first payment of the 2024 dues are 2024 dues are due. So we'll see that increase. Next slide. Getting into revenues. It's kind of hard to tell when you're doing this on a computer if you can see this up here on the big screen, so I did my best. So revenues for 2023, we had $18 million. HOA2 dues and other revenue was $7.9 million. Food and beverage revenue was 3.2. Golf had revenue of 2.9. Theater and lifestyle added 248,000, and fitness added 199,000. Reserves, we allocated $3.2 million to reserves, and CIF revenue had $320,000. There's an extraordinary credit revenue item of $543,000 that we received from the government for our employee retention credit. It has to do with COVID and us retaining employees during the COVID period. We do keep this out of the analysis, and you will see it in the final audit, but we keep it out of the analysis so that we can do a clean analysis and compare apples to apples without this big extraordinary item getting in the way. All right, next slide. So number of lots, and this affects how much CIF funds we get actually. So there were 36 new builds in 2023. We budgeted 25. There were 158 resales, and we budgeted 180. The miss on that has to do with the market and interest rates during the year, so I kept it lower than what we had expected. Next slide. Okay, operating results for December, the month of December 2023. So is our HOA net income after expenses of $101,000. This is 29% less than budgeted. Golf for December had a subsidy of $28,000, which was about 175% less than what was budgeted. F&B had a subsidy of $16,000 and was 31% better than budgeted. And let's see. So a little bit better in budget for F&B. Go ahead, next slide. Fitness had a subsidy of $3,000 and was 53% better than budget, and theater and lifestyle came in a little bit worse than budget. Net income from operations was $44,000, and this is worse than budget by about 71% for the month. Okay. Next slide, we'll go into year to date. So how did we do for the whole year? For 2023, the year-to-date operating results were HOA net income of $2.2 million, which is 17% better than budget. And again, this doesn't include the $500,000 of ERTC that we had, which is about 151% better than 2022. Golf had a subsidy of $925,000, which is 19% worse than what we had budgeted, and about 21% worse than 2022. F&B had a subsidy of $602,000, which is 75% worse than what was budgeted, and 28% worse than last year. Fitness, next slide, please. Fitness had a subsidy of $81,000, which is 28% better than budget, 19% better than prior year. And theater and lifestyle had 22% subsidy, which is 126% worse than budget and 26% better than prior year. Net income for the total operations was $1.2 million, which is 265% better than budget. And this does include that $500,000 as I previously discussed. A couple of things I want to go into: wages and burden. Wages is our biggest expense, and it continues to be our biggest expense, and it will continue to grow. Labor for 2023 was $6.2 million. This is 10% more than prior years. We continue to see the labor rates escalate as minimum wage increases. It has increased to it will be $14.35 beginning January 1. So it's already gone up already. We'll expect that to increase until it gets to $15 in Arizona. We have seen some reduction in labor burden. Labor burden, again, is payroll taxes, workers' comp expense, insurance expense, health insurance, and 401k contributions. This is due to, the reduction is due to the true impact of taking over basically our labor for golf maintenance and the golf workers there. Next slide, please. This is kind of a eye chart, but the important numbers are down there in the right corner in yellow. So we can look at each one of these departments. We can look at each one of these departments and see that how much our labor has increased since 2019. Our wage expense has increased 34.4% since 2019. Of course, we've had increases in staff as well, but for the most part, our staff is pretty much remains pretty constant. So there's some changes in that, but it's not significant. So this is just basically an increase in wages and what's required to pay our employees to keep them coming up here to SaddleBrooke. So we had a 34% increase from 2019, and our revenue we're showing is about 25% increase in that same time period. So wages is definitely outpacing the revenue that we're bringing in to pay for it. So this is resulting in greater subsidies being seen within our amenities, as well as other things. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the main causes. Next slide. F&B, cost of goods sales, has had a lot of scrutiny this year. We've had quite a few meetings on this with the chefs. We have made some progress in this area. Let's see. Overall, our cost of goods has gone from 43.5% in 2022 to 39.49% in 2023. So there's a drop there in overall cost of goods. Mountain View and the Brook food costs went from 38% in 2022 down to 35% in 2023. And the preserve COGS went from 48% in 2022 to 46% in 2023. We've done some analysis on this, and we notice again that it's not just the food costs, but what we're seeing is that our revenue is just not keeping up with it. So the revenue amount that we're bringing in is far less than what we used to bring in, and we need to start addressing that. And I think Walter and the F&B team is working hard at that. So, excuse me. Next slide. This kind of shows Mountain View's cost of goods, and it was at 39.8% in 2017, and we see as we get into the COVID year where it spikes and then it comes back down into 35% in 2023. So for 2024, it's reasonable that we budgeted 33% for the Mountain View food COGS. Next slide. And kind of the opposite with Preserve, because Preserve did close down during the COVID year. So we had the Preserve food COGS was 40.9% in 2017, and that dropped during the COVID year to do closures, and then ended 2023 at 46.5%. And again, we think it's reasonable that we had budgeted 43% for 2024. That wraps up my presentation, and thank you very much. And then we'll be back again for the next month. Okay.
Terry,
Yep.
a couple of observations. Just very quickly here. I got to say thanks for all the work you've been doing in the food and beverage. This is good news that the COGS are coming down.
Yeah.
This has been a discussion item of concern. I also want to point out, if I'm reading this correctly, we saved about $85,000 on our wages and burden for golf course maintenance because of Troon.
Yes, that would be because of Troon, because they've taken over all of our labor and burden.
But we're still paying for it, but they...
Correct, we pay for it.
Right.
It's just that they're controlling it, yes.
And it's less than ours.
Yes.
Thank you. Good job, Walter. Mark, we're ready to discuss the club policy.
Yep, let me see. Yeah, I guess I'm on. All right. So, yeah, if you could put the first slide on. So, my name is Mark Eckert. I am the treasurer. I started on the board in 22 and was the liaison for the Fitness Wellness Committee. And when I got into that in 22, we started looking together with the committee, with the policy that existed, which had been written a number of years ago, and saw just a lot of inconsistencies. It was very difficult to read. So anyway, I actually got into this quite a while ago. I'm kind of embarrassed to say how long it's been since we've been working on this, because there's been so many other things that seem to demand more attention. But anyway, we finally have kind of gotten to the point where I think we've got it all done. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today a little bit, is kind of where we were, you know, what we've done, and kind of where we are. So first slide, basically, just want to give an idea of, you know, why are we updating the club amenity policy? And there were numerous reasons. There were a lot of inconsistencies. It was a single policy. There were a lot of inconsistencies between sections. It was very difficult to read. I found it very difficult to read when I read it for the first time. One of the challenges was there was no standard liability waiver for the HOA. So we had all these clubs, Glass Club and all these different clubs. They all created their own liability waivers. Some were fine, some weren't so fine from a protection standpoint. We had a lot of complaints from residents ever since I got on the board about the fact that in general, a lot of people are unhappy with the fact that we pay for all of our amenities, but we had a lot of people that don't live here, that don't pay anything, that were using our amenities. And a lot of discomfort, rightfully so, with that. So that was just another issue that had come up. There were numerous conflicts in the policy. There were a lot of rules and regulations items in the policy which conflicted with what was in the rules and regulations document. So that had to be fixed. The listing of the amenities was inaccurate. It was outdated, was missing some of the amenities that had been added. We had to fix that. The pricing in the tables where we do charge for renting an amenity depending on the situation was inconsistent and pretty much outdated. It hadn't been looked at in a long time. And really the single biggest thing that really kind of drove looking at it was that it wasn't per our legal documents. And so in December of 2017, the CCNRs had an amendment that transferred the ownership of the golf course to the HOA. Embedded in that amendment, Robeson put some things in, probably, I'm guessing, because of Pulte, although we never had that really told us. And you can see, I'll just read what's in there. It says, people who are not residents or owners shall not have the right to use the association's fitness facilities, pools, or other amenities. The association use commercially reasonable efforts to ensure only people authorized by this declaration use any of the amenities of SaddleBrooke HOA 2. So that's pretty clear. Now, what's interesting is in the original CCNRs, there's a kind of a general statement that says the HOA is created for the residents of the HOA, but it's, you know, it's just kind of a general statement. There's nothing specific. So Robeson, when he did this amenity, took away any lack of clarity as to what our rules are. And of course the board, one of the two main functions of the board is to make sure we are upholding the rules and regulations and legal documents that we all signed for when we moved here. So anyway, that was kind of a big issue that caused us to have to kind of look at this. Next slide. So there are some exceptions to the CCR addendum, which Robeson wrote in. First of all, he realized that unlike HOA 1, we have public facilities, golf courses, restaurants are both public. Anybody can use them, so that was written as an obvious exception. We want to have as many outsiders using those facilities as possible for income. Also, any present reciprocal use agreement that's currently in place, obviously, is taken into consideration. Any guests that use our amenities per the guest policy as it's written are allowed. And also the big thing that he also put in there was he recognized the fact that the HOA wants to be able to have special events, specifically events for the ballroom and what they list as other for-profit events. This would include weddings, shows, theater shows here in the theater. Anything that brings income in is something that he allowed as being something that we can use and define as a special event. We have written that even though he didn't mention the theater specifically as being a public site like the golf and restaurants, by definition we've included anything that's a theater show with tickets as a special event. So, next slide. So what was the process for doing these changes? As I mentioned, there's a lot of time that went into this. The Fitness, Wellness, and Recreation Committee worked a lot of hours to review this document, the present document, and look at what changes we should make with me. The staff and Lifestyle Department, who are the main people that use this document, that's Liz and Jeanette, and I want to thank them. They spent a lot of time looking at this, especially Liz and Mandy, and going through this and cleaning up all the things that really needed to be fixed so it works better for them. They're the two that use this. So the Finance Committee helped a lot review the liability. One of the things that I needed to make sure we did is that we covered ourselves from a liability standpoint, from an HOA liability standpoint. I spent a lot of time with our lawyer looking at the policy, asking a lot of questions about exactly how should the liability form look. Where are we covered from an insurance standpoint? And the Finance Committee helped with that. Looking at our insurance policies and talking to our lawyers and just making sure we've cleaned that up. The Rules and Regulation Committee worked with me and we took out all the inconsistencies. We moved the things that should be in rules and regs into rules and regs and took them out of the amenity policy, which is not where they should have been. So that's been cleaned up. And of course, our law firm worked with me on the existing policy just to make sure overall we're making changes that protect the HOA from a liability standpoint. So I also looked at the HOA 1 liability policy. Now, of course, every HOA has its own CC&Rs, and the CC&Rs that HOA 1 has are not the same as our CC&Rs. Specifically, this statement, when the addendum came when we bought the golf courses, there's nothing like that in HOA 1 CC&Rs. I'm guessing it's because Robeson didn't really care because he wasn't selling lots anymore in HOA 1, but he certainly cared about lots he was trying to sell here. So anyway, we review those, and actually to the extent that HOA 1 has a policy, our policy here now, it reflects pretty much what HOA 1's policy is for sanctioned clubs, which is where they talk about this. So next slide. So basically, what are the changes that were made? Again, I mentioned we took the single policy and we made it into two policies, made it a lot easier to read. The club policy today only really deals with clubs. It doesn't deal with amenities. The amenity policy deals with amenities because amenities are used by everybody. They're not just used by clubs. So we added a lot of definitions to define better the types of clubs that we have. We clarified the insurance coverage that's required for the clubs from a liability standpoint. We outdated all of the items that were just simply incorrect. We removed them. We took a lot of sections out that actually were never even being used. They just added a lot of pages. So we created a standard liability waiver form that our lawyer wrote, which now is included and all the clubs are going to use. And what's interesting about that is there's only a few clubs, relatively, we have, 180 clubs. And there's probably about 10 clubs that actually have what we consider to be dangerous conditions. And they're pretty obvious. Okay, the swim club, people are swimming, they could drown. A glassing club, woodworking clubs, people that are riding the bicycles, at least the easy riders type club. Things where you can obviously get hurt. Not so much true for card clubs, a lot of those kinds of clubs. So those clubs are defined. There's a relatively small number of them, and those are the clubs that are required to assign liability waivers. Softball club, for instance, those types of clubs. We updated the pricing, the amenity listing. One of the things that we talked about at length with the lawyer is that the clubs control their rules and regulations and bylaws. Now, this is a kind of a big change. It's a little different. In the past, the HOA really approved all of those things, and what that does is that brings the HOA into liability if somebody's not happy. And so, for instance, a example that our lawyer gave us is that if a particular club has an election in their bylaws and someone is unhappy with the way the election goes, they think it was unfair for whatever reason, they can hold the HOA accountable for that because the HOA approves the bylaws. He said, you don't need to do that. He said, you really just need to make sure that the clubs are following your overall HOA rules and regulations, and you shouldn't get involved in how each individual club wants to run their club. And so that's one of the fundamental changes we made, is we no longer approve bylaws or rules and regulations that each club has. There's one exception to that. If a club has use of amenities built into their bylaws, the board still approves that. And an example of that would be tennis and pickleball. As part of their bylaws, they put definitions on how those amenities can be used by people. That's something we do approve to make sure it's fair. So, and in general, the staff, we've given the staff as much power and latitude as we can, we feel is comfortable, to make approvals for what we define as special amenities. So Liz and Jeanette really, and Walter, have the authority to look at what they consider to be income-producing items, and to the greatest extent possible, they police this and they implement it. The board does not implement this. So we've done the tool, we've given it to them. It's their job to handle it and use it to optimize not only our income, but to be fair to our residents, but also use our amenities for what they were intended for additional income for the HOA. So, next slide. So anyway, now that we've done all this work, I'd like to finally make a motion. I'd like to move that the board adopt the new club policy, that the board adopt the new policies and procedures for the amenity usage, events reservation and rental policy, 2 different policies now, and that we adopt the new HOA2 liability waiver form that was written by our lawyer.
I have a motion to adopt the new club policy, the new policies and procedures for amenity usage, events, reservation, and rental policy, and to adopt the new HOA2 liability waiver form. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Chuck. Do I have any questions or comments for Mark or Sean?
I'd like to make a comment. Mark, you went through an awful lot. Thank you very much. Obviously, this has been a big deal. It's taken a long time to get to this point. So for me, I'm thankful we're here and all the work that you and Sean have done and the committee's done. So this is all good work. Something you mentioned very quickly, but I want to make sure it's very clear to people. The RUA, which is in place with HOA1, allows HOA1 homeowners to use our amenities just as if they were residents here. No different than we are allowed to use their amenities just as if we were residents there. You made that comment, which is good. It's here, but that's an important note, I think, that everybody understands that our fellows at HOA1 have rights to our amenities as we do theirs. So just that's my only comment, not really a question.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Do I have any questions or comments pertaining to this motion from our residents?
Just one comment, Matt. I just want to compliment our chairman of this area, Mark. He did a lot of effort in this, and it took a long time to get it done. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Ditto. Anybody have any questions or comments for us? Hearing none. All in favor of it? I'm sorry?
Got one?
Oh, you need to come down to the mic, sir. You know, we need your name, your unit, and your lot number, please.
Thank you. I'm Dale Norgard, Unit 33, Lot 36, and thank you for the board for allowing us to speak. One question mark I have is, do we have a broker that sells our insurance policies to the market, or do we go directly through our own inside people to buy the policy?
I am not an expert on that. If there's somebody in the finance committee that is part of that, but Walter should be able to answer that.
I can answer that. Yes, we have a broker. Mahoney Group is our broker, and they work hand in hand with us each year, updating our policies and coverage.
I recognize we spend a lot of money on legal fees, which is part of our process. It seems to be the broker can work with an attorney in assisting us with some of the legal questions and complications that we are facing. Is there any chance that the broker is involved in working with the lawyers, that we're being charged for what, $200, $300, $400 an hour? I don't know, but it seems that a broker would be helpful directing the lawyers as well on insurance needs.
Yes, they help us out. I'm not sure, Mark, if they were involved with any of your meetings, but we do have meetings where both the broker and attorneys discuss these issues. So
okay.
Yeah,
we do work together.
There wasn't any specific meetings exactly between the lawyer. However, when we went through and identified any questions related to insurance, those were posed to the lawyer, and he clarified where we were. In general, we're covered very well from a legal standpoint. From a liability standpoint with our insurance program. So yes, there was making sure that we're covered with that. There wasn't an actual physical meeting between the two, but a lot of information was exchanged between the two to make sure we were all covered from a legal standpoint with our insurance.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any others? I have a motion that we adopt the new club policy, the new policies and procedures for amenity usage events, reservation and rental policy, and the new HOA2 liability waiver form. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
All right, Mark. Yay.
This was quite the journey. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my first board meeting as your president, and of course, the first thing that I did not do properly today was allow my board, our board, to introduce themselves, and we have a new member of the team. But being as this is the 5th time we've been in front of you this month, I guess I kind of ran over that. But I would like to, everybody knows Dan and Mark. Sean, if you would go and just go on down, and so make sure everybody knows who Larry is. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, I'm Sean Kreiderman. I'm the secretary, and I helped Mark get everything ready took a 26-page document, and we changed it into 10 pages, so it's much easier to read, and it's much easier to execute. There's that word.
Chuck Hill.
I'm Larry Santora, the assistant treasurer, and I don't feel new anymore.
Walter, everybody knows you.
Yeah.
Okay. I apologize. I'll do better. Charlie. Everybody knows Charlie. She's the brains of the outfit. I'll do better next month. See, I'll make Charlie put it on the agenda, and I won't forget it. Walter, we're ready to have... Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. It's you.
Chopped liver here. Good morning. I'm Dan Lenninger, Vice President of the HOA. I've been tasked today to give you an update of the Mountain View Golf Course, where we are on that project, and hopefully a couple of next items that we'll go through at the end. So let us go ahead and start. Again, this is a tough chart to read. This is all online, so please read it online at your leisure if you can. I want to go through a little bit of the beginning of where we started with the Mountain View renovation. Mountain View and Preserve golf courses were purchased by us homeowners, HOA2 homeowners, in December of 2017 for $2 million from SaddleBrooke Development Company. That was a voted item by all residents, and I think the vote was roughly around 85% in approval. Purchase was approved, as I said. Mountain View course opened for play in 1997, currently 27 years old. The Preserve opened in 2004 and is currently 20 years old. The Mountain View Greens, which is essentially the only thing Robeson did while he owned this golf course, was regrassed in 2015. Regrassing greens is important. Greens wear out. When you overseed them regularly, the grass just tends to wear out on you. So he regrassed our greens in 2015. Fast forward, we own the course now. We're past 2018. The pump station was replaced on number 8 green in 2019. And in 2020, we replaced the pump station on the 16th green of that golf course. There's 2 pump stations. Both have now been replaced. One was 22 years old. The other one was 23. The first one failed. The second one was replaced under a normal maintenance program. Good news is both pumps contribute to water going on the golf course. So when one failed, the backup was the other one. And as you know, we only have one pump station at the Preserve, which you may not know. I said that, sorry. We only have one pump station at the Preserve. There's some backup capability in that, but Mountain View was designed a bit differently. No other Mountain View renovation was done until this renovation in 2023. So nothing has been done to this golf course in almost 27 years. All components of the course, irrigation, drainage, which is important, water on, water off, very important, tee decks, bunkers, practice area, were well past useful life. Useful life is determined by a variety of factors. Bunkers are about 15 years. Each component has a useful life. We didn't make all this stuff up. This is stuff that's available in the marketplace. People understand it if they own a golf course, that useful life each has a duration. One thing I put up here real quickly, Golf Now and Tee Off, we sell tee times because we do act as a public golf course. We covet revenue from outside play. We like that. We sell those tee times on Golf Now, app, Golf Now, and Tee Off. They both sell our tee times. And before the renovation, they allow their golfers who buy tee times on those apps to come back and verify their experience. They want to know that. How was your experience? How did the golf course look? How was the playability? On and on and on. Mountain View was around a 3 out of 5 star on a good day. It really wasn't getting much good feedback, if you will, positive feedback. That positive feedback grows more revenue, or doesn't. As we all know, we buy something on Amazon, you look at how many stars it's got. If it's a 2-star thing, you're probably moving on looking at something else. That was what was going on with Mountain View prior to renovation. Next slide. A list of what was needed to be done to do the course was long. We had an architect design a master plan for the Mountain View Golf Course, and he recommended a variety of things that we should do to improve golf experience on that golf course and here in HOA2. As I mentioned, the architect, Mike Gogol, The golf committee and many inputs from golfers developed that list. A list of must-haves was determined. Many items were deferred. Go to the next slide, please. If you look on the left, I got must-haves. I already told you about those: irrigation, tee decks, bunkers, driving range. All of that are must-haves in terms of improving that golf course. We had the to-do, the should-dos. I say should-dos. Turf reduction was on that list of should-dos. We decided to take on that project and add it to the must-haves because we knew going forward, water, which is a valuable resource in the state of Arizona, is becoming more and more restrictive in terms of its use. We don't know, I can't guarantee you exactly how many acre-feet of water will be allowed for a golf course, but I can assure you this, the current legislature is working through that process, and at some point in time, we will be told how many gallons of water, how many acre-feet of water we can use to maintain a golf course. The less grass you need to grow, the less water you need to have. So we were looking to the future with that. The board before our board this year looked to that future, and that's why turf reduction was included. We added a cart path from 9 to 10 from safety reasons, but the right side is full of deferred planning. The right side is full of things that the architect told us we really should do to make the experience at Mountain View a premium experience, and we've deferred that knowing that we can get to that work later. It's not a must-have, so we need to get the must-haves behind us. The deferred planning can go forward in years to come. It's exactly the same model HOA 1 has used. HOA 1 did all their must-haves about 10 years ago. New irrigation, new bunkers, new tee decks, all of that work. But if you'll notice, if you're alert, they're coming back now and redoing some of the nice-to-haves on individual project basis. That probably is the intention of where that will go in the future, but that will be in the future, quite a few years from now. Anyway, storyboard, next slide, please. Road to renovation. Okay, so we're moving on. We're going to do this. It's gone through multiple iterations. I will tell you there were a number of board meetings that this has been discussed going all the way back to 2019. So this is not really a new topic about renovating the Mountain View Golf Course. We went out for bids to 6 firms. We got 3. 3 people came and told us they would be interested in the job. One was $5.7 million, $7.6, and $11.1. That's a pretty big variety of money up there, I tell you what. The good news was the 5.6 guy who is here, Desert Reflections, we vetted him against multiple jobs that he performed. He's done most of the HOA 1 work. Actually, in the past, he's done a lot of other work. He came out very well in our vetting process, so we decided to issue a contract with Desert Reflections. Construction work began in early 2023. They did a lot of under-the-road boring to put water lines under the road. They did that prior to May 1. May 1, they started actual construction. Tight labor market, and this is where we get to the why we didn't open up in October or early November. The labor market in Tucson has been incredibly tight for this kind of work, and this is really outside labor kind of work, and it's been very difficult. He had a hard time getting going. Once he did get going with a full staff, he never really was able to catch up. We opened up 9 holes on October 9, the back 9, which he started for first because of irrigation issues and how you work backwards on that. Started then on the back 9. We opened that up on October 9. We also opened up the practice facility at the same time. So the driving range, not the north side, but the main driving range was opened up as well as the back 9. Current plan is to open up the front 9, hopefully by the middle of April. Weather dependent. Everything happens because grass is starting to grow. So we can't tell you exactly what date that's going to be. The Troon experts will tell you it typically starts in March at some point in time. We'll go through a couple of punch list things at the end to tell you a little bit more about the next steps in all this process, but we're thinking middle of April, and that's our goal. Troon is charged with that to give us the best golf course possible when we open up as quickly as we can open up. Next slide, please. I'll give you a little financial review of the project. We borrowed $6 million for this project. We budgeted 5.7. You saw that as a construction contract. We had $300,000 of contingency money. Not enough, but it was money, so it was there. Most contingencies are quite a bit larger than that. We didn't have that. We spent $5.6 million. The bottom line to all this, I know it's a bit of an eye chart, the bottom line to all this, after we had a couple of change orders, we had actually 3 change orders, one of which was real in terms of the contractor saying, I couldn't get the sand for the price I put in my contract, and per the contract, you have to take that differential and give it to me. That was $42,000. That was the only change order that came to us from the contractor. And that was scary times. I will tell you, we signed a contract when diesel fuel was going to $6 a gallon. There was a lot of concern that there would be some change orders associated to inflation. That didn't happen. We had the other change orders that we instigated. Bottom line is we will end this project under budget by roughly $75,000, which is a tribute to certainly the contractor. He did a lot of good work for us above and beyond what he really should have. He didn't charge us for that. And so anyway, that's where we're going to be. We're going to be in just under the $6 million number that had been loaned and budgeted. Okay, next slide. All right, we're late. We knew we were late. Everybody knows we're late. It's a big problem. It affects our revenue. No question about it. In the contract that was negotiated with Desert Reflection was what would be considered a late penalty charge for work not completed after September 15th. He had anticipated that after September 15th, we would be in cleanup mode and be able to open that golf course up the first or second week in October. That was always the original plan. We suggested it be November 1, but anyway, the middle of October. So for every day after September 15th that he could not deliver us a completed golf course, the penalty was $3,000 per day. Final grassing. Final grassing is when you lay the final piece of sod down. That's kind of the completion of the project, as noted by the architect and the industry, actually, was December 2nd, long after September 15th. Final grassing defines the work completed per the contract, 78 days late. There were 8 days of rain delay in that 78 days, which he was not responsible for per the contract. So we had a total of 70 days of late payment at $3,000, $210,000. The contractor is paying us in that late penalty fee. These fees will be held in retainage. Every bill that he submitted to us during this process, we kept 5% as a retainage, as a holdback to make sure everything's done properly. Very typical in these kinds of contracts. Out of that 5%, and that 5% is around $300,000-ish, 5% of $6 million, about $300,000. So we will hold back the $210,000 out of that retainage. We will not pay him that retainage money, or we will pay him his retainage money minus the $210,000. So it's not him writing us a check at the end of all of this. We already have that money. Per Troon and Invited, just a comment. These late fees are typically not part of these contracts. Mark and I were in the middle of the negotiation process on the contract, and we were able to include them, and the contractor signed off on them Troon will tell you that most of the time when you ask for these kinds of contract stipulations, penalty fees, things of that sort, the contractor does nothing more than guess what he thinks the lateness will be and add it to the price of the contract. It's really not that good of a thing, but somehow we were lucky. Desert Reflection signed a contract. So we do have money coming to us for a late penalty fee. Next slide, please. Okay, so what do we get for $6 million? I don't know. Got a golf course. Let me go through what we really got. Hold on. Water conservation. Well, state-of-the-art Rainbird irrigation system. Rainbird's the #1 supplier of irrigation for golf courses, #1 in the world. We got rid of the old PVC piping system that we have in the ground. We now have HDPE piping, something that will last twice as long as the old PVC piping. We have 2,101 new sprinkler head. 2,101. I mean, good God, that's a lot of sprinkler heads. Anyway, they're all electric, individually controlled. Our golf superintendent, Paul Halleck, can water something from his phone when he's driving home in the evening. I mean, it's crazy. He can turn on a sprinkler head from his phone. That's the kind of state-of-the-art system that we have, and that's what is important to conserve water going forward. The system is expected to be 85% efficient in water use versus our old system. The old PVC system we just stopped using was roughly 65%. Less water needed, less water cost long term, that's the goal. We pay for every gallon of water that goes on these golf courses. The good news is we get to use effluent, which is gray water, as part of our water portfolio that we need to water the grass. But I will guarantee you, effluent costs money just like water pumped out of the well that you and I would drink. So less water is very important to us. Immediate labor reduction. We had a full-time, if not 2 full-time people working on fixing the old irrigation system because it was failing constantly. And they were fixing this in little spots and big spots. And so those people are going to go away, obviously, and either do something else or we don't need them long-term at all. Next slide. Turf reduction is also part of water conservation. Just as I mentioned, the state of Arizona is in the middle of deciding how much water we get to use. Mountain View Golf Course has roughly 83 acres of turf. 83 acres of grass is in that golf course. It was reduced by roughly 8 or 10%. Okay, the turf reduction area has been hydroseeded with natural desert vegetation. When you play golf on Mountain View, you see a lot of bare spots. There's no question about it. That's where turf used to be. It's not where your ball is supposed to be. Okay, so that's where we have taken grass out to reduce the amount of water that goes on that golf course long term. 25, 35, 50 years from now, that accumulation of less water will make a big difference to HOA2. We also have 21 new trees that are planted. We took trees out in this regard. There's no question about it. The agronomist will tell you can't grow grass under a tree, which is pretty true. So they took some trees out in certain areas, but we've also replanted 21 trees in the turf reduction area. You'll see those, actually, if you just drive by, you'll see some of them. You don't have to play the golf course to see that. We're still going to be planting some desert flora this spring. The trees were able to go in even though it's cold. That didn't really matter on the tree part, but there are some plants that will continue to be planted in the turf reduction area as we move forward into warmer weather. Next slide. New bunkers and less bunker maintenance. Bunkers, big deal. We have 39 new bunkers. Now, we had about 45 bunkers. So we have 39 new ones. And what that means is they're new because they're completely redesigned. They have new liners, they have new drainage, they have new sand, obviously. We had a bunch of bunkers, we still have a bunch of bunkers. We have a few less than what we had before, but we have 39 brand new ones. We reduced the amount of square footage of those bunkers by 20,000 square feet. It went from 70,000 square feet of bunkers when we started the project to 50,000 today. So what's that mean to me? Okay, I don't have to hit out of a bunker as much if I play golf. That's true. But going forward, if you're going to maintain your golf course, you're going to replace the sand every 7 to 8 years. You're going to replace the liners every 15 years. Going forward, the long-term investment in that golf course, that will save us money over the long haul. That's what taking 20,000 square feet of sand and bunker space out of this project does for you. All bunkers have brand new drainage. I don't know if you play golf. I don't know if you do. But there's a lot of bunkers out there that had no fishing signs in front of the bunkers. And that's because they had no drainage in them and the water stayed there. And it's god-awful. And that's why you had 3 stars or 2 stars by people that came here to pay money and play that golf course. So all the bunkers have brand new irrigation or drainage systems. And they use the architectural design is a big deal in bunkers today. Again, if you don't play golf, you don't appreciate the fact that the old days they used to have high lips on the bunkers all the way around. The sand would fall down to the center. You couldn't hit your ball out of there. It was a big pain in the butt. The newer architectural designs of today make those bunkers a bit flatter. They're visually appealing, but they're also much more playable. They're much more capable of you getting in the bunker and getting out of the bunker and not, you shouldn't be in it in the first place, but if you do get in, it's not like 5 extra shot penalties. So it's much more, much better playability with these bunkers. And the long-term maintenance is much less with these bunkers. Next slide. Okay, the tees. We updated all the tee decks. All the tee boxes have been completely new design. 12 holes have 5 tee boxes. They have a back tee, black tee. They go all the way up to yellow tees to the forwardmost tee box to make playability so much more enjoyable for all levels of golfers. Tees are sodded with a drought-resistant grass, special grass that goes on these tees, turf, that uses much less water and stays active in the shoulder seasons. Very important. Each tee box is individually designed, laser leveled, and positioned in its proper direction. We had tee boxes that pointed you off into the woods in the proper direction of the fairway or green. Tee box sizing now meets current industry standards. The tee boxes we had before, some of them were tiny, some of them were huge. Current industry standards is primarily focused on maintenance. Get your equipment up there, mow, don't concentrate all the golfers on one spot. Let them concentrate over a variety of spots. Long-term tee maintenance is very important to the maintenance program and to enjoyability and the use of those tee boxes. So we've got that. Each tee box has its own unique irrigation system because of that special grassing. It doesn't need as much water as the typical turf in the fairways, so it has its own irrigation system. Tee boxes are a big deal. Next slide. Safety and logistics. We replaced over 29,000 square feet of concrete path and parking areas, mostly due to age and poor original design. We've been replacing concrete at Mountain View for the last, since we've owned it, and Robeson did it before we owned it from him. The design of those cart paths have never been very good. They're always at an angle. They get erosion underneath, they crack, they go bad. So we've been replacing concrete forever. So we've now taken on 29,000 new square feet of concrete, so you'll see a lot of that, especially around the golf shop and the practice area. We had a cart path from 9 to 10. I know that was an emotional subject for many. It's an important safety issue. Driving golf carts through our parking lot was not a safe thing to do. And I will tell you, there have been multiple experiences where people are lucky to be still living based on either the car argument backing out or the golf cart going too fast. And we put our non-residents, the people we hope come to play our golf course, at a disadvantage to have to drive through the golf cart or drive through the parking lot every time they play golf at Mountain View. We solved that. We have now a golf path between the 9th green and the 10th tee box. We also added a staging area. You'll see that around the Mountain View Pro Shop. It's a bit nice concrete staging area. So when you have big tournaments, every Thursday there's typically 120 men that play golf in a men's group. Staging those carts is important. If we have outside tournaments that Matt's constantly looking to try and sell, when those people come and we stage our golf carts, we have a place to stage them now. Very important. Next slide. Okay, some of this nicer to haves, was actually paid for with not from your dues. It was paid for by Golf Improvement Fund. Golf Improvement Fund was started about 5 years ago or so. It's been since canceled going forward because it really was revenue that should have been going into golf. Long story, but that money was set aside for improvements. It was intended for small improvements. It wasn't intended to redo the golf course, but to make small improvements. We used that money, the golf committee and the board worked together to use that money. We added artificial turf on the practice area. The practice area actually is almost an acre of practice area, one of the largest in southern Arizona. We updated the ball storage building with GIF money. What else we do? GIF was used to replace all the markers. Every marker that when you come up to a hole, you got a new welcome to number 6 or welcome to number 10 or whatever. All that markers and plaques, the GIF money was used for that. We did level the number 15 green. It was the number one request from the golf committee. The 15 green was really almost an unputtable green. So we did level that, and money for that expense did not come from dues. It came from the GIF. And the GIF was also used to pay for the new cart path from 9 to 10. Next slide. Okay, next steps. We're getting to the end. Okay, sorry. I know if you're not a golfer, you're probably half asleep, but we're getting to the next steps. We have punch list items that are still left on this golf course that need to be completed. Mostly it's settling of soil. When you put in irrigation, you put it all underground. Most of the stuff that goes on up here went underground. There's a lot of settling that takes place. This is very normal for a project to have punch lists to come back and level a lot of those areas. That work will be done this spring. Troon is managing that. Typically, they want the grass to be active before they do it. So when they pull the grass up, put more dirt down, level the whole thing out, put the grass back down, they want the grass to be active at that point in time. So you'll see these punch list items taking place a little bit later this spring. Contractor will return and make sure that punch list is done. Typically, what happens, and we did what Troon told us to do, you estimate how much work it takes to do a punch list. You say, hey, how much of this is going to be, how many labor hours? We sat down with the contractor, we did that. He thought it was about $60,000 of labor hours, the number of hours of people and all the work that would be done. Troon said, when you do that, hold back 150% of that to make sure the contractor comes back and does the punch list. So we have roughly $90,000 in final payments that we will not make until that punch list is completed. And I'm guessing that will probably be done. I can't say if it's before we open or after we open. That's still kind of a debatable issue, but that punch list work is still coming and will be completed. Next step. All right. Last thing, kind of fun. During this work, during this process, Mike Gogol is a member of the, let me read this to make sure I get it all right here. The Architectural Association, let me get it back, sorry. American Society of Golf Course Architects. He's one of hundreds and hundreds of golf course architects across the country. That group, that society, they get together, wear hats, and talk about silly stuff and stuff. That group got together and gave out 9 of these awards for design in 2023. Matt, Mark, can you hold that up? Get right there in front of you. I got a plaque. I'll show it to you. It'll be available to you. This award was given to Mike Gogol and certainly Mountain View as well for his work on the Mountain View golf course. And the award was to protect the goal. The project goal was to enhance the course, improve aging infrastructure, and reduce maintenance while recognizing the environmental impact and the course's access to allotted irrigation water. There were 9 of those handed out in 2023 to all architects that were a member of that society. So it really is a big feather in the cap for Mike Gogol. It's a feather in the cap for us for that forward thinking about turf reduction and new systems that were employed. So it's really a reward to you, the homeowners, for owning a golf course that now is in a state of environmental compliance that was never there before. So thank you for allowing that to happen, and congratulations on this award. This award, this plaque will be hanging in the Mountain View Pro Shop after this meeting, so you'll be able to actually see it there. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention because it really was a pretty prestigious thing to have happen during this process that we went through with the Mountain View Golf Course. Okay, so I'm done. I'm sure you might have questions, which is good. I think we'll be here when the meeting's over. Come on down, ask questions just like normal. Happy to try and help. I probably missed something in all of this. I can't believe I did, but I might have missed something that you'll want to know about, so come on down and ask questions then. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan. That's the most information we ever provided to you about the Mountain View rebuild all at one time. So thank you for the work. Walter is going to talk to us about credit cards.
Took the microphone. Oh. Sorry, Walter.
Now we see who's really chopped liver around here. Okay. I prepared a presentation for the board this morning, which has been an issue that has been around since I've been here for over 9 years. I've heard this discussed about every year as we do the budget. And there's this one budget line that just pops out every time, and it says credit card fees. And so we wrestle over that in the board, the general manager, and the finance committee wrestles over that and discusses it. And some of the debates or discussions were pretty lively in sometimes. So what I want to do is present and hopefully put this issue to bed after this presentation. All right, so here we go. Here's a little history on this credit card subsidy that we see. Again, like I said, it's been discussed many years in the past. The last, 3 years ago, it got serious where we were talking about actually charging a fee for residents who use a credit card. So we started moving down that direction, and we found out that our old North Star software really didn't support the process of charging this fee. It had a hard time distinguishing between a credit card and a debit card, which you can't charge a fee on a debit card. So that kind of put the brakes on it because at that point our software didn't support that. And then in 2023, we then approached the subject again we were getting serious about this fee, and then we brought on our new software, which was TEI. And the struggles we had with TEI were distracting us from this credit card fee, so while we struggled with that, we again put the credit card fee on the shelf. This year, so in 2024, we now have the new North Star software. We've talked to North Star, and they said, yes, we do now have the capability to charge this fee. We can set it up. We can distinguish between a credit card and a debit card. And so the software now can support this. So we said, okay, great. We talked to the attorney, and we talked to credit card companies. The attorney said, yeah, check with the credit card companies. You're going to have to do, certain things to implement this. So the company that actually handles our credit card is the Global Payments, and that's where all of your credit card information goes to, and then they work with all the different credit card companies. We talked to Global Payments, and they said, all you have to do is just make sure that you first don't make a profit on the fee you're charging, and you've got to put, legally, you've got to put out signs notifying people that they're going to be charged this fee. So everything's in place. North Star says they can support it. As far as I know, as far as I got, the Finance Committee and the board here has a chance to discuss it. We'll support this. And the attorneys, we checked with attorneys and the credit card companies. I think we've checked all the boxes to do our homework. They said you can charge, it's up to us to kind of decide what we want to charge. So what I did is I went back and I talked to to Dave in finance. I said, okay, so what is the percentage that we're looking at the past charges? What is the percentage? And here at the bottom of the slides, you can see that our percentage came out to be 3.54%. And your typical fee is about 3.5, which makes sense. You see this downtown. And so that makes sense that the standard percentage is 3.5. So that's kind of the history. Next slide. Let's look at some of the numbers. All right, so back to 2019. You can see our credit card fees that the HOA paid in 2019 were $174,000 and change. And you can see for each year how that kind of goes up and down. Okay, and then we had it split out where you have the golf fee. Now this is going to become important because there's going to be some exceptions on who pays these fees. And you can see the difference between what the golf fees are and what the resident fees are. And these are folks using their credit cards. So my goal is to target this subsidy that the HOA is paying. So you can see each year we pay, like in last year we paid $140,000 to cover people's credit card fees. And that's why it's always popped out every year. They're always like, well, how come we're paying $140,000 to pay people's fees for them to use their credit card? Okay, so we come down to the next chart on the bottom, and it's, well, who's going to pay this fee? So I had a discussion with the Finance Committee, then I had a discussion with Matt from Troon, Matt Cambick, and Matt Hudson. So we all sat in a room and said, okay, what's the typical way? I had to go back to Troon and say, well, what's the typical way golf people get charged? Because when you book your rounds online, when you come to the pro shop, you don't get charged any more money. You just come and you pay what you've been told you're going to pay. So what it comes down to is the people that will pay, basically the residents will have to pay this fee. The people that won't have to pay it are the outside players that come and play a round of golf and also purchase items in merchandise from the golf shop. So those are the only two categories of exception. And that falls in line with my discussions that I had with Troon and the golf community. So that's what I'm doing. So the bottom line here is we want to charge a 3.5% fee on everybody that uses a credit card, with the exception of the outside golf player. And that is to target that $140,000 or so we pay every year in credit card fees. Next slide. So how do I see this being implemented? So during this coming month, the month of February, we'll have the marketing office do different campaigns, and we'll use our standard methods of communication, which are the Monday message, public talk about it in public meetings, and also send out an e-blast so that people are aware of this new fee that will be on their credit card. We have to make needed signs so that when we do implement this, that the signs are up. So when you go to a register, there can be a little sign that says, you know, hey, you're going to be charged 3.5% if you use your credit card. And so we'll have to get that out there so that people are aware of that. And then we'll have to train the staff, because of course this is a new process that the people at the register, the POS stations, or the server at the table have to understand and know how to put into their POS devices. And so I would like to do that during the month of February, and then on the 1st of March, I would like to implement and start actually charging the 3.5%. So one thing I left out of the slides is, okay, so great, so how do I avoid this fee? I'm not forcing you to pay it. If you use your credit card, you will need to pay it, but you can avoid this, and you can avoid this by using your member card. So if you pay for things with your member card, you don't get this extra fee. If you pay your dues, and if you pay your card fees at the end of the month and you don't use your credit card, you will also avoid this fee. So it's not forced upon you, it's just if you choose to use a credit card. So board, Matt, considering the information presented in this slideshow, I recommend the board approve a 3.5% credit card fee as presented starting on March 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Walter, for your work on this. I have a motion from Walter that the board approve a credit card strategy that contains a 3.5% credit card fee for resident use that will be implemented on March 1st, 2024.
Second.
I have a second. Do we have discussion with the board?
Yeah, I have one question, Walter. Have you or Terry done an analysis of what you feel for that from March 1st to 12/31, the impact to the bottom line will be? How much savings are we going to incur in net income if we pass this motion?
Okay, ask that again one more time. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
If we pass the motion, how much impact to the net income will there be for the remaining 10 months of this year? Because you're going to have this run from March 1st through 12/31, right? So how much are we going to save during that 10-month period if we pass this motion?
Okay, no, I have not done that analysis, but the analysis I did was to see what our fee was averaging at. I mean, so in December, our fee was averaging at 3.5%. So then my logic was, well, if we charge that 3.5%, we will cover, from the time we started, we will cover the credit card fees, and we will not make a profit.
Yeah, this should be, if we look at the budget, we've got a budget line item, I would assume, for credit card fees. And so if we start March 1st, then 10/12ths of that should be removed. So, I mean, that should be the logical way, although it probably varies by month. So, Terry, you're saying that that doesn't quite that easy to calculate?
The thing is, some people are going.
Rick, can you turn this mic on? Turn the volume up. He's going to turn the volume up on it. There you go.
So you have to assume that not everybody's going to just go ahead and not use their credit card. So taking, what did you say, 10/12ths or whatever it is, you can't just do that because there's going to, you're probably going to save around $75,000. It would be my guess for this year, because you're not going to get the full $140,000.
Is there a new line item in the budget for income from credit card?
No,
fees?
because this hasn't been passed.
Okay.
And we finished the budget in November, so.
Go ahead. I understand the rationale for not charging outsiders for green fees, because it would discourage them from playing. I don't understand the rationale for not charging outsiders for purchases in the pro shop, because if you're going to charge residents, buying an item is the same for them as it is for a guest.
Yeah, I sat in that conversation with Matt Malloy and Matt Hudson from Troon and brought Walter into the conversation. It was Dan and Mark were with me when we started. It comes down, Larry, to the recommendation from Matt Malloy, our Troon advisor, was you put yourself in a disadvantaged position for the very people that we're trying to attract into our golf operation to enhance revenue, reduce subsidies. It puts us in a disadvantaged position with competing clubs that are attracting the same players. And so it is not a practice within the golf community to do this 3.5%. And he advised us that we would be harming our own objectives by implementing it. That was the explanation.
And again, the resident has the option to use a member card.
I have a question, Walter. So if I go to the admin office and I'm going to get tickets for the Moody Blues, starting March 1st, I'll have to pay an additional 3.5% if I use my credit card.
Correct.
Okay. What about the $1.50 that I have to pay now for the ticketing fee? Does that have anything to do with it?
No, because that goes back to showware. We have to pay showware for every ticket that we sell. So that's a totally different fee.
Okay, all right, I just wanted clarification of that. So anytime I use my United credit card or my Visa credit card to pay for something, after March 1st, I'll be incur an additional 3.5%.
That's correct.
And it's my choice to use my credit card if I want, because I want miles and points, or my member card, which is my HOA2 card, and I will not be charged the 3.5%.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make that clear. I will be using my member card. Thank you.
Well, sir, if we buy tickets online for the DesertView, they have the ability to use the member cards?
I am not sure. Do you know, Terry, if they... I don't know if David's here. I don't see David. I'll have to get back with you. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, just if for whatever reason they don't have the ability, if you buy tickets online to use your house card, I don't think they should be charged them 3.5% for using a Visa or MasterCard.
I will check into that.
Yeah, because I don't think you can use your member card now because of showware. I think you have to use a credit card. In fact, I know that's a fact because we just went through this for the plays.
Larry, I was going to make a comment. You asked about merchandise, and I think that's a good question. But I think there's $25,000 worth of credit card fees going on for what is essentially the golf operation today. My guess is that the merchandise side of outside play probably, and I'll guess, but it's probably less than $5,000 of that money. I think the majority of that money really is people paying for the tee times when they walk in the door, and that's the disadvantage you don't want to have. I will suggest that there is money attached to that, though. It's not like it's zero, but I think the mass majority of that is tee time payment by the golfer, outside golfer. I don't know what to tell you to do about the theater thing. I think it makes sense to me that if you can't do anything but a credit card, then you shouldn't charge them. We'll just keep on trucking and try to deal with that at some future point in time. That would be my suggestion, but it's up to everybody else.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I mean, if you have the option to use your HOA card when you buy a ticket at the theater, then I think it's fine. But if the only option you've got to pay is a credit card, then really you're in the same position as anybody that doesn't live here, and I don't think it's realistic that you charge a fee when you only have one option of a way to pay. So I guess it's something to check.
So what I hear being said, I want to make sure I get this right. What the policy has to say, when a resident has the ability to use their member card, they're always going to pay the 3.5%. Where there is no opportunity for the member to use their member card, they're not going to be penalized the 3.5%.
Yep, that's correct.
That's the way your policy needs to be written, Walter. I think that gets us all on the same sheet of music, right?
Yep.
Or is there any way we can get Showware to be able to use our member cards?
Yeah, so we can do one of two things. We can act on this motion, or we can defer it. And we can take it up again next month after we answer some of these questions. Or we allow the latitude for exceptions that we just articulated. So that's the option that I see in front of us.
I'd rather get it going right away.
Chuck, did you have another comment?
I just want to make sure, I know we mentioned this before, but there's probably going to be, if we pass this, there's probably going to be a negative cash flow issue of probably $1 million a month at one time, because we're going to be not getting the money from the credit card companies, and we're going to be waiting 30 days to receive the money from the charge card for the house card. So I know Terry knows that, but we just have to keep that in the back of our mind that we're going to have a negative cash flow for the first time, in the first month.
That happens now.
Oh, that's a good observation. That's fair. Any other discussion here at the board level? Any discussion with our residents? Okay. Then Walter, with the addition of what we discussed here, all in favor of approving this motion? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Charlie, another piece of housekeeping. Denise Lexell is not with us today. We do have the quorum here with the board with 6 members. Please note that Denise was absent in our minutes. She's in Florida with a new grandbaby, so she's not with us today. Walter, thank you very much for your work on this. I know this has been a long time. We've had a lot of long time coming stuff handled here today, so thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Chuck, do you have a motion for us?
I certainly do. I would like to make a motion to approve David Lewendorf as CPAC, will continue to be a CPAC chairman for the following 2024.
I have a motion to approve David Lewendorf as our SPAC chairman. This is the SaddleBrooke Public Affairs Commission that represents both HOA 1 and HOA 2. David has been the chairman of that body for the last 2 years. It was our turn to have the chairman. Chuck has been working to recruit new memberships. We've lost the memberships we had. David has agreed to remain on as the chairman until a future date when we will have one of our HOA 2 members trained up and ready to assume that responsibility. So I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Me, I second.
Sean seconds it. Any discussion amongst the board? Any discussion amongst our residents? All in favor, please say by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, Charlie.
Speaking of new members to SPAC, I also have like to make a motion to approve Dick Schroeder and Dan Seivergling to the SPAC committee.
Okay, I messed this up, Chuck.
Chuck.
This one's on me. I got your motion, and what I owe everybody on the board was the background. I got Dick sitting over here. What I didn't get to you was their resumes. And that's on me, not Chuck. And we can either decide to move forward or deal with this offline after I get you the resumes.
Absolutely not, Matt. We're all set and ready to go. We know these gentlemen. We've talked to Chuck. Chuck gave us their background. We have all the information we need.
And they've also
I second that motion.
they've also been talked to and approved by David.
I know. And so David Lohendorf, the chairman, has interviewed these people and has asked us to approve them. I just wanted to dot my i's and cross the t's as your president, which I seem to be struggling at, but
And
I will do better someday.
I've talked to them too.
Okay, Chuck, thanks. So I've got a motion and a second to approve Dick and Dan to the SPAC. Do I have any discussion with the board beyond what we've already had? Any discussion with our residents?
Sorry, I got it ahead of time.
Hearing none, all in favor of approving Dick Schroeder and Dan Sieverding to the SPAC, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, Charlie, thank you.
And just speaking of that, we also need a couple more members to this committee. It's a very fun committee. We deal with a lot of outsiders, and you really learn a lot from it.
Congratulations, Dick Schrader and Dan Sieverding.
I need to tag on to what Chuck just said here because I learned a lot in the last couple of weeks about the significance of SPAC. Sharon Beckman has served on this body, and as a result of that, she got herself appointed to the Pinal County Transportation Advisory Committee. Last week, we had the Pinal County update, and Pinal County was in here to discuss what's happening with SaddleBrooke Boulevard. And so what I found out is that we in SaddleBrooke are very important for what's his name? Jeff McClure. Thank you. For Jeff McClure, last election, 87% of our registered voters voted in the last election. That was real important to him. Make a long story short, Sharon's work was she got a study funded by the county to widen SaddleBrooke Boulevard. She was interested, her husband's a biker. She was interested in safety considerations as you go from our community out to Oracle. And so what we got briefed on at the Pinal County presentation is that SaddleBrooke Boulevard is going to indeed be widened to include a bike lane. Dick, that's the kind of important stuff you get to bring home for us. Sean, it's your turn.
Thank you. On behalf of my friend and fellow board member, Denise Lexell, I so move that the Unit Representative Council be reinstated to the status of an advisory committee with all the rights and privileges afforded a committee within HOA 2.
I second that.
You want to read it?
Thank you, Chuck. I have a motion to approve the Unit Representative Council being changed back to a Unit Representative Committee. Discussion by the board. Hearing none, discussion by our residents. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the Unit Representative Council changing back to a Unit Representative Committee, please tell me by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous, Charlie.
I'm curious. When you say aye, and then you hold your hand up too, is it like a double thing we got to do, or is it just say aye?
I just want to make sure Charlie sees me waving at her.
Okay, so it's not a double thing. We don't have to do two things.
Thank you. Past president helping out the new president. Upcoming events, and we'll get you out of here. Somebody was long-winded today in their presentation. I won't point out who that may have been.
5 minutes.
Right here.
Upcoming events next week. We have the February 7th, we have the General Manager's Coffee. I know that's important to our residents because I get email. People want to talk to you, Walter. And so thank you for getting that on the calendar. Our second reserve town hall is going to be on the 20th of February. We opened up the portal for comments last night late. It was the last thing that Charlie did before she went home. And this morning when I opened it up, I was a little shocked at how much feedback we'd already gotten. Our intent is to continue to take feedback and hear your voice and to provide more answers, provide more education in each of these town hall meetings. And so that's our commitment to you, and we're going to do that. Our next board meeting will be conducted on February 28th. I will now adjourn the meeting and open it up for resident comments.
Can everybody come down at once?
I'll take one.
We got two.
We don't want someone got.
Name is Terry Nyer, Unit 15, Lot 128. I just want to make board and the people realize that the HOA2 inherited a house through foreclosure, which now it looks like we are going to eat the back dues for the HOA fees on this. I just want to make sure that there's something later in your CC&Rs that covers this so this doesn't happen again on a reverse mortgage that HUD ends up with, and that we don't notify HUD that these people are behind in their HOA fees and we just let it string out. This case, it was 2019, they defaulted, and it took until 2 years later to have a sheriff's sale in which how it got to that point where we ended up foreclosing and the HUD loan is still on the house. And now we're in a predicament where the HOA can't sell the house unless HUD decides to put a price on it. So basically, we're going to end up getting foreclosed on by HUD and to try to get out of this mess. So I'd like the board to look into this on how this happened and be, at least give us an explanation on how we ended up in this situation. Now, we're trying to get, this thing was a crack house we lived across from for 4 years and had to get these people out. How do we now rectify, seeing the HOA owns it, and they need, it's never been painted, the weeds are overgrown, it's truly a mess. And we had Ray tell us that he was going to take care of the backyard and all these things that we petitioned, and they came and showed up last week and didn't even complete the partial list that they said they were going to complete on this house. So I leave it to the board.
All right, Terry, I'm going to take the first swing at this because I'm the guy that catches these arrows. The Manning property is a sad tale.
Yes.
And we've got a story to tell this community. I'm not ready to do that yet. We are working hard to figure out how we get the federal government to be a good partner in this situation. We haven't solved that conundrum yet.
Right.
It isn't because of a lack of effort. Campbell Chaney, as the treasurer last year, spent the entire year working to get through the barriers related to HUD. And now Mark has picked up the baton. I can tell you that we're working with our congressional office. We're trying to get congressional support to get inside of HUD to help us with what we need to do to deal with HUD in this problem set that we've inherited. By the way, nobody sitting at this table did anything to inherit this problem. We're just now dealing with it. But I owe you an answer about commitments from Walter and the staff about what they've done, what they haven't done, and what they still owe us. But the issues about the property itself belong solely with this board, and we're dealing with it. Walter, you want to add anything?
So the staff is working, again, with the board. We're trying to balance out how much effort and money we have to put into this, but we don't know what HUD is doing. I mean, you know, the staff could go and renovate this whole thing and pour a lot of money into it, but we can't do that without, you know, knowing kind of where HUD's coming from. So we're trying to maintain the house to an acceptable level without sinking a whole lot of money into it. So that's where we sit as a staff. You know, yeah, we get a list with a lot of things, but we have to choose on some of the things. Like painting the house is a large investment. So at what point, you know, again, we're kind of holding back until we find out what HUD is doing also. So we're trying to balance it on our staff side.
Okay.
And realizing this, obviously, this HUD is not answering in an expeditious way at all. So that I know that's the part of the issue, but the question is how did we get in this situation in the first place?
Somebody didn't pay their bills.
Exactly, but we had the obligation to notify HUD that they were late on their HOA fees.
Wait a second.
That way they're
Terry, there was no way for the board to know that HUD was behind this. We found this out after the fact.
It was online with penal, it was right online that HUD had a mortgage on that place.
Okay.
It just took 5 minutes for me to look it up long before this all happened.
Okay.
We need somebody to catch that loop next time so this doesn't happen again.
We're busy trying to solve the problem, not figure out who done it.
Right, but it's going to happen again is what I'm saying. The way it's set up, these reverse mortgages are getting ended up back in HUD's hands.
Okay, I got your point.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm Karen Nair, Terry's wife, Unit 15. Karen Nair, Unit 15, Lot 128. So we're in this situation. My immediate concern is, what are we going to do about the dump that exists there now? None of you would want this property in your neighborhood. I can guarantee it. And I would ask that you would at least go by and take a look at the condition of the property. It's infested with pack rats, which we did make known to the administration. The pack rats have now impacted neighbors who are having to deal with issues of pack rat damage and infestations on their properties. Because of the presence of the pack rats, there's a rattlesnake that's taking up residence in the backyard. So now there's an additional safety hazard to the neighbors. Because the property has not been properly cared for. Now, I know that none of you and none of us got the property in this condition, but the reality is now it's our property. So I think it needs to at least be maintained to the standards that we expect of other homeowners and HOA too. This property is surrounded by neighbors that take pride in their property, that maintain their yards. The homes, most of them are freshly painted. The street looks great except for this property. You can't keep sending over maintenance crews to spray the weeds and not do anything else. All that did is that we have brown weeds now instead of green weeds. really not much of an improvement in the appearance of the house. You can't go just cut down dead shrubs and trees and leave the stumps. That's really not, not much of an improvement either. So the things that we're asking you to do, I don't feel are extreme. I feel that we need to do them to preserve the property values of the neighboring properties. And if HOA2 ever wants to get out from under this, I can tell you as a DIYer for 45 years, if I drove this past this property, I would not even get out of my car to consider it. And we have flipped 13 houses. So it is in that bad of condition. You're not going to sell it the way it is. Something has to be done. So are we going to pour good money after bad? I don't know, but I don't think that the board is living up to their obligation to the residents by leaving the property in its current condition.
I might agree with you. I might agree with you. We just simply can't let the status quo go on.
Right, and
I hear you. I got it.
And I don't think it's going to take a ton of money to improve the outside appearance of the house. It's going to take some labor, but I don't think it's going to be a ton of money. And I will tell you just my observations, because I'm out in the yard doing my own yard work. When you send maintenance crews over there, we are not getting our money's worth out of those crews, because there's more time spent sitting around and visiting than there is actually accomplishing anything.
Thank you.
Just my observation.
Thank you.
Sherry Groupie, Unit 45, Lot 73. What I'd like to discuss is the survey that was done by McMahon. And the number one thing on it was distrust of the board and some of those issues. The board only has the ability to make the decisions, but the follow-through comes through the staff and management. Getting back, one more time to the CAM issues. A couple weeks ago, I was getting ready to leave my house, saw the CAM tractor pull up outside the house. I have nothing but level 4 dropping to level 6, no level 5. So I did speak to them, and I just asked, are you the level 5 crew? They said, yes, we are. I said, what's your plan here? And he says, we're going to take out 38 feet. I said, well, this is level 6, not level 5. And they said, oh, well, they told us it was level 5. I had had a meeting probably 6 to 9 months before with Elias, who had agreed this was all level 6. So apparently communication, not with the board, but communication with staff is not getting down. I also said, I thought you guys were supposed to be flagging before you went, which if I'd seen flags out there on some of these things, I would have been able to call ahead and say, hey, why do we have flags out here? This is level 6. The only reason I caught it is I went by a window at a certain moment in time. I know CAM has been a big issue. I know that you guys have worked really hard on it. We had a plan. The changes that were made was that for the residents' benefit and to make sure things were done properly, which is to prune and trim trees and bushes that are viable, and to save all viable cactus, is to flag. Not only does it give the owner an opportunity to see if there might be an issue or a concern that they can reach out to the common area team ahead of time, it also, which needs to be done 2 or 3 days before the tractors go in there. When I talked to them, they said, we are no longer flagging, which was news to many people. That was addressed with Michael Parks, and I was assured that from this point forward, they would again flag. I went out today where they are using their tractor on holes 11, 12. Nothing is flagged. Everything is stripped bare down. There's a couple cactus, a couple trees. All the bushes are gone down to the ground. My fault. Yes, I did go up to them and ask them. They were on lunch and said, did you guys flag this before? And I was told, we don't know. Seemed like an odd answer. So I said, well, did you notice any orange tape hanging from any trees, bushes, or cactus before you went in? No, we haven't seen anything. Okay, I know it's not the board's problem to implement this, and it's not your responsibility. I have nothing to say there. I have a real problem with the implementation of this from management down. And then I was also told by patrol that I can't talk to them, and I know I can't, but if they weren't in that situation, I wouldn't have had to. I would never have bothered them if I saw little flags out there. I would have known they were doing their job. And I guess my one question to the board is, am I correct that that flagging was done to specify species to be protected and to also alert homeowners of what was going to transpire behind their homes?
I don't know about the informing homeowners in advance. I don't recall that, but I don't have Eileen here to back me up. What I do know is that flagging was one of the agreements we made when we approved the policy. And if that's not happening, Walter will address it.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'll address that. I'll follow up with that. So.
Don Crawford, Unit 4510. I'm concerned about what's going on up with this new sinkhole that's up on Overlook. I want to know first, who paid for the repairs on Peregrine where we had the similar situation with the sinkhole?
We did.
Why did we pay for that?
All right, so we paid for that, but it's not a permanent repair. The repair upon Peregrine is a temporary repair. We're continuing to watch that to see if it continues to settle. So right now, those repairs aren't a full-depth repair on Peregrine. We're still watching that.
How much did we pay for that?
I believe about $80,000 to repair all of that.
All right.
Over the time. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what I'm observing is we have now the similar situation on Overlook. We got a settlement over a sewer ditch that's obviously between two manholes. It looks to me like it's a Robeson responsibility, either from them not providing the right specification or following through with constructing the work. And are we pursuing Robeson for that cost?
Your observation is probably similar to ours, and yes, we are pursuing Robeson. I cannot say we're making much progress, but yes, that has been discussed with Robeson's site developers.
Okay, what you were discussing earlier that we have a 5-year warranty. 5-year warranties aren't covering defective work. And my perception is they screwed the thing up. They either didn't write the right specification, they didn't monitor their contract, they didn't use the right materials to backfill. You don't backfill in this area ditches under roadways. Go to any engineering specification for roads. You don't put, native fill in a ditch, try and compact it. You use structural fill where you've got a roadway over the top of it. So I'm guessing that your investigation, when you dig this up, it's going to be native material that was compacted, the cracks in our road, let the water in, the water turns it to mush ultimately, and it takes a while because the water's got to get to it, and it will get to it through the cracks in our roads. It'll migrate over to the ditch, which is a weak lens of the soil, and it's going to turn it, ultimately liquefies, and you get settlement. So any engineer can back up our case. We need to pursue it. If it's costed us $80,000 once, this is probably going to be another $80,000 to $100,000. When are we going to take and pursue our avenues for liability for the real responsible party?
Well, based on my whole 30 days of experience as your president, I'm trying to figure out a lot of things. Like, what did we give away at transition? We're just now getting our hands on these documents. You're right. We've done an engineer studying on Peregrine Road. The engineer study confirms exactly what you're talking about. The compaction wasn't done properly. All right, we have that. I can tell you that Walter's efforts to date have been rebuffed by Robeson. And so we have to figure out how we're going to continue to deal with these road failures, because the current situation is not acceptable to us either.
And I don't think you've seen the last of it.
I don't either.
So, all right. Thank you.
You guys deal with a lot of issues here, boy. Incredible. Roger Bivens, 3637. First one's the unit. I have a question for Dan Liniger on the golf thing. But
He's
no,
at lunch.
I appreciate your presentation very much, but my question is fairly specific. It probably relates to the turf reduction part of the program that is going forward. And I haven't been able to really see the back nine of the Mountain View Golf Course that I guess is operating now, but I live right next to on the front nine. And I've noticed a lot of scalloped areas where turf has been removed, and it's just dirt and mud when it rains right now. And even more specifically, my home is right at the bend of the second hole, the bend of the dog leg, where there used to be quite a big hill connected to the sand bunker there. And now and for a month or two, has just been dirt and mud, and they even have these berms to try and keep the water from washing more and more down. But I also see at other holes, for example, hole number 4, the short par 3, just scalloped dirt areas that look terrible. And we're very concerned, those of us that live on the cul-de-sac, again, along the second hole, is that the way it's going to look? Or you mentioned a plan on desert landscaping being done. Will that be done there, since there's no plan to replace the turf, I assume?
Thanks for the question. Obviously, all of that area is part of the turf reduction area. The 8 acres that were taken away from growing grass, that's what you're seeing right now. All of that area, prior to the contractor being done, was hydroseeded. So if you actually walk the area, you'll see where they've blown hydroseed through a material that adheres to the ground. All of that was done really late November, primarily. So there's been no growing season for any of the multitude of seeds that were in that hydroseeding mix that was put out there. So until we get a growing season, it's going to look like it looks. It just is going to look like it looks. Once we go through a growing season, it's going to start to look like a desert. That's what the intent is. Will it take more than one season? Probably. But honestly, it's going to be a desert, and that's the intent of having an area that is not water dependent, and that's what we have. That's what we look forward to in terms of conserving water. So I don't have a better answer for you. I mean, I really don't. It looks like dirt. It really isn't completely dirt because it's been hydroseeded. There will be desert flora. I don't know what that really means. I'm not smart enough to tell you that answer. But once the growing season starts, I think there'll be some more plantings. But it's not going to be like a covering completely at that point in time. There'll be a few. And they'll grow quickly. I mean, our common area guys fight growth constantly. And that's what's going to start to happen once they take root. So anyway, I don't know if I answered it or didn't or not.
Yeah, I think you did in part, but just to be clear, you're saying there will be some desert flora plantings going on in there, and that with the additional natural growth going in, that it's going to look not unattractive. In other words, it won't be an eyesore. Is that what you're telling me? Because right now, if I were to try and sell my home or something, somebody came in and they look out in the back and, whoa, that's quite an eyesore to be looking at, whereas it used to be beautiful. But, so you're telling me there will be some flora, desert plantings going on in there and upkeep to make it look as a more attractive desert area.
Right. It'll start growing. The whole thing's going to start growing. I can't remember how many seed types were in the hydro seeding. 21 types of different seeds, desert plants were in the hydro seeding. So it's going to go. I mean, I give you a timeline, I can't give it to you. But once it warms up, stuff's going to start sprouting. That's the intent.
Okay, well, I just wanted to get that on the record, so thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, my name is Michael Buckley, Unit 36, Lot 36, which just happens to be right next to Roger's house. And I have the same issues that he just mentioned. And it's really kind of interesting because when we were going through the planning process, I suggested that they completely lower that little knoll that was there. Instead, it was built higher, and then it was not even seeded or sodded. So normally, if you don't want to have erosion, you don't leave a hill bare. But now that hill is bare, and every time it rains, you've got erosion tracks coming down, and then it goes across. All that dirt goes onto the cart path, and so when play starts and it's going to be monsoon,
That wasn't intentional.
Come and use this one.
Guess the battery ran out.
The battery problem.
Hello? Okay. So anyway, you see erosion tracks coming down and it's going across the golf cart path. But that's just one little issue about the golf course redo. And I don't think the golf course redo is a disaster, but I'll tell you, there are some really bad things that went on. And I'm really asking the board, before they get seriously active on the preserve redo, that they do a after-action report on the Mountain View Golf Course. What went well, what went wrong. Let's make sure we don't do the wrong things again, and let's enhance the things that went better. Because if you don't do an after-action report and find out what was bad and what was good, you'll make the same mistakes again. And we can't afford to have that happen. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars. And I think the courses need to, I'm not golfing anymore, but the courses need to be there. They need to look good. Otherwise, you won't get people to play. And then it just costs more money. So what we need to do is figure out how we can do the best job with the course, the new course, when we do the preserve. And that is doing a report on what went wrong and what went right with the Mountain View course. Thank you.
Is your backyard facing north on Valley Crest?
And you mentioned an after-action report, AFR, after whatever. I have a soldier sitting next to me who is in the middle of writing that right now, actually, I think. Yeah. Right. It is. Big deal. And I appreciate your comments. For sure, there is an action report being written. After action. You got it.
Dan, some call it a postmortem.
One thing that I forgot to mention earlier, Sherry Groupie, Unit 45, Lot 73, is that the second thing that the board voted to approve was a oversight committee that was, what I thought, maybe I had it incorrect, was supposed to be overseeing the implementation of the CAM at the different levels to see that it was following protocol. And I guess maybe this is something I expected them to do instead of me running around trying to chase down a tractor to see if it's flagged.
Yeah, Sherry, the Common Area Maintenance Committee has no oversight responsibility for the CAM team. They're an advisor to us. So they're going to tell us what their observations are. They're going to tell us if Walter and team are doing what we're asking them to do or not. But they don't have an oversight responsibility of Michael Parks in that operation.
I'm not asking them to. I'm saying that it was their responsibility, in my mind, that the reason it was formed was to let you know that information. I'm not saying for them to get involved in the management or in the work effort, but to let you know what was going on so you could then talk to Walter and whoever all needs to be spoken with. It just gets back to that same, we hear like we're working together and there's good things going on and then they don't get implemented. Not your fault, but it's very frustrating.
Sherry, I have to tell you, there's a lot more going right than wrong. Okay, to be fair, to bring balance to this whole thing, I appreciate your observations. Walter's been counseled publicly. He knows what he needs to do. We will continue to keep our finger on the pulse. I promise you, CAM doesn't get far from the forefront of our brain, along with the other 150 things we're trying to figure out.
Or more. Thank you.
Well,
lunch.
Look who's left, the faithful dozen. Hey, thank you for being with us. If there is no more comments, we'll bring this thing to an end. Thank you.